Okay, Granny, we're going to ask you some questions. I'm going to start over with, what year was it when you were 4 years old?
It was 1928.
1928. And what kind of toys did you have when you were little? What kind of toys did you play with?
Well, we had a red wagon. We'd take turns pulling our brothers or sisters in the wagon around the house. And I had rag dolls and cellophane dolls. You don't see them anymore.
Did you make your own dolls?
Yeah, we made the rag dolls.
Wow.
We stuffed them with cotton. Yeah. What do you want?
So how old were you when you first watched television?
I was about 19.
When you saw your first television, did y'all have one?
No, we didn't have one. We watched Ed's dad and mother television.
And what show was it?
Grand Ole Opry.
Grand Ole Opry, wow.
Yeah.
So what'd you think of the first television?
Oh, I thought it neat. Yeah.
Okay. How old were you when you rode in your first car?
Oh, I was about 10 or 12. My Uncle Billy had a car. We didn't.
Oh, okay.
And he'd come down the road in front of our house, coming from town, and he'd stop and let us ride on the fender down to his house.
So did y'all ever get a car?
Not till in the 60s, I guess.
How did you ride a horse or what?
Rode in a wagon.
Yeah.
Wow.
They'd load us all up in the wagon and take us to church on Sunday night.
Wow, Granny
the
rode a
wagon.
horse and wagon. Isn't that neat?
And we'd fall asleep on the way back in the bed of the wagon. We had quilts in there to lay on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did y'all go to the grocery store, or did you farm most of your food, or what?
Well, we growed a lot of the food. Papa always done the grocery shopping. He'd go to town and stay all day. And Mom would write him a list, and he'd get what she had on the list.
Wow. So did y'all have a telephone?
No. No.
When was your first telephone?
It was after I was married. They got one. Ed's dad and mother had one. People from all around would come and ask to use their phone.
Wow. So when you would dial, would it go to someone else and then they would connect you, or how did that work?
What?
Whenever they would dial the phone number, did it like go to an operator and then they had to send you to, how did it work?
Well, I don't know.
It's probably like Petticoat Junction, and you call, or like Andy and
Right.
call Sarah,
Yeah.
and then Sarah would punch it through.
Right.
Yeah.
So what about, how old were you when you got your first job? How old were you when you got your first job?
And I don't know. I guess I had Jake, and I got a job in
Yep. Didn't you work when you was a kid, picking cotton or something?
Oh, yeah, we worked in the field all the time. I plowed corn and cotton, soybeans, and peanuts, and whatever else there was to be picked.
And that was just for your family, so you didn't get paid for that?
Oh, no. No,
How much did your mom and dad make?
very little. He didn't have any money. He'd have to sell a cow to get money.
So how did you get clothes? Did you make your own? Did your mom make your clothes?
Yes, out of feed sacks.
Out of feed sacks.
Yeah,
Wow.
Because feed sacks used to be fancy back then. Cause
yeah, they used to be cotton material like you got on
Or
like the
burlap
blouse.
or something. Where
No,
they,
well, that was
were
They'd
kinda
have
later on.
designs on them, and they'd buy corn and stuff in them,
Wow.
feed the cows.
Yeah.
And when they got empty, Mom would take them and wash them.
How did she wash and dry clothes?
Well, she had a big old pot out in the yard, and she'd build a fire under it and fill it up with water. And she'd get a tub of water and rub the clothes on a rub board, and then she'd put them in that hot water and boil them for a little while. And then she'd had a stick. She'd pick them out and put them in a pan of clean rinse water, and she'd stir them around in there a while, and then she'd pick them up and wring them out, hang them on the clothesline.
Wow.
So you would wear your same dress more than one day then?
Oh yeah, we'd wear the same dress to school 2 or 3 days, probably.
Yeah.
Sometimes
So did you walk to school or did you
we walked to school.
so there was never a school bus or anything like that?
Not when I was a kid.
Not when you were a kid. There were no school buses when Granny was a kid. She rode a horse and wagon to school. What was a popular meal? What did y'all eat a lot of?
Huh?
What was a popular meal? Like, what did your mom cook?
Mostly chicken and dumplings, or pinto beans and ham.
Wow. Can you tell us anything else about your childhood? Something you remember or a funny story?
No, I don't remember a lot.
Well, it sounds like you remember a lot.
I'd like to forget it all.
So it's a little bit easier nowadays.
Yeah. I had to pick cotton. Dad would be gone to town, and he'd tell us kids to pick so much cotton while he was gone. Well, sometimes we picked cotton, but mostly we played. Yeah,
Uh-oh.
we'd play leapfrog and shoot marbles and jacks and a ball.
What about hopscotch?
Yeah,
Played hopscotch.
yeah, played hopscotch.
What
Wow.
about World War II?
Do you remember anything about World War II?
Oh yeah,
Tell us.
Ed was in World War II. I had Jake when he was, well, Ed left when Jake was 9 days old. He was drafted into the Army.
9 days old.
Yeah. And he took his basic training in Arkansas. Then he had to go to overseas. I had Jake already, and he was gone 3 years or a little more. Jake was almost 4 when he come back.
Wow. He hadn't seen him in between that time?
Well, he seen him when he was 9 days old. He didn't see him anymore, except pictures I made and had made and sent to him.
Yeah. Wow. So you did have a camera?
No, we didn't have a camera. We went to a studio in Paris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So did you always live in Arkansas?
Well, not always. I lived in California for about a year. Then I went to Virginia for about a year. And then we went to Trenton, New Jersey. And I stayed there till Ed went overseas. And when I heard from him and he was in Germany, then I took the train and went to Detroit and stayed with his sister for a while and took care of her kids while she worked. And then when I come back to Arkansas, I stayed at Mom and Pop's till Ed come home. And when he went in the Army, we had to sell our horses and our cows and our chickens and our pigs and everything. We didn't have no stock or anything left. So he went to work for Gordon Hickson, delivering feed to the farmers. Well, he got tired of doing that, so he worked in the coal mines for a while. Then after that, his brother-in-law got him a job at Ford Motor Company in Michigan. So we went to Michigan and lived up there I stayed 10 years and he stayed 12. He brought me back to Arkansas in 1961.
Wow.
And I was pregnant with Roger. I didn't know it. So I had Roger, and he didn't have any calcium, and he had little seizures. You know what that is.
Yeah.
So anyway, Ed come down to see him when he heard he was sick. So while he was home to see Roger, I got pregnant with Carol.
And that was number 9, huh?
Yeah, that was number 9.
Wow.
And when I was carrying her, I had her 2 months early. I went out to feed the hogs, and I had to go up a little hill-like,
Uh-huh.
to go to the chicken or to the hog pen to feed the hogs.
Uh-huh.
Well, when I was coming back, it was real frosty that morning, and I slid on the grass, and I just done the splits.
No.
So in a little while, I started having pains. I called my doctor, and he said, well, you better get over here at the hospital. You're apt to have that baby. So I went to the hospital. Sure enough, I had the baby
Wow.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're 11 months apart.
11 months apart. Tell us the story about how Ed dropped you off at the hospital and said, call me after you have the babies. Or the baby, and then there were 2.
What?
You told us the story once before when you had the twins and you didn't know you had the twins. And he had dropped you off to have the baby.
Yeah.
And then the doctor called him back and said something about there being 2. Can you tell us that story?
Well, I don't remember much about it because they had me sedated because I was having twins and they thought it was too much for me. And they put a shot in my spine, and I didn't feel no pain, and I was about half asleep. I had one, and the doctor said, "Oh, wait a minute, there's another one in there." So he said, "Let's get this one." So he helped me along a little with the forceps,
Yeah.
and Pam was born. Paula was born first. She weighed 7 pounds and something, and Pam only weighed 4. She was up under my left side of my ribs. She was caught up under there.
Yeah.
So he had to take the forceps and pull her out.
Yeah.
So anyway, she stayed in the hospital till she gained 5 pounds. And then he let me bring her home.
Yeah.
But I'd go down and see her maybe once or twice a week. Sometimes more than that, but I had other kids that had to be looked after while I went to see her. So anyway, Jake was pretty old by that time, and he
Yeah.
was old enough to babysit. So he kept the other kids. And one time we hired an old lady to look after him while I went to work. I had a nervous breakdown, and the doctor told me to get out of the house, leave them kids to somebody else for a while, and we hired this old lady. Well, she peed the bed. You don't have to put that in there. You done got it, huh?
That's okay.
Okay. Denny didn't like her. He was mad. He crawled up under the house where the manhole was, and he built a fire under the house.
Oh no.
Yeah, he did. And she called me at work, and I called the fire department and sent them out the house, put out the fire. Well, they had to crawl in there and drag Denny out. He wouldn't come out on his own. The fireman crawled in there and got him and drug him out.
Wow.
But anyway, they put out the fire without much damage. We had a floor furnace, and how we knowed that she knowed that the fire was under there, the smoke was coming up through the floor furnace in the house.
Wow.
And it was choking them, of course.
Oh no.
What about when she had them all? How many she had in the hospital with polio at a time?
Didn't some of your kids have polio?
Yeah,
How many were in the hospital?
2,
I thought
Wayne and Sue.
Wayne and Sue.
5 of them had it.
But Paul and Pamela had it just a little bit,
Mhm.
and Noreen had a little, but they wasn't sick enough to put in the hospital.
Oh, I thought
They
all had
give them a shot for it,
Yeah.
and they stayed at home.
Wow. Anything else you can think of?
And then we had a little trouble with Wayne when he was 13 or 14 years old. He had skipped school. So him and his friends skipped school one day, and they went out in the woods looking around, and they run onto this oil rig. And there was ropes and cables and stuff, you know. And they cut them down a rope off of that oil rig. And when they come to work on the evening shift, they couldn't work because that rope was gone. And the police investigated it, and somebody had seen him and his friend. So they told the police it was two young boys. They described them to the police, and police come out to our house.
Yeah.
He said, "Did you know your son skipped school this afternoon?" "No, we didn't know it." And we called Wayne in and talked to him, and he said, yeah, him and his buddy went out in the woods, and they cut him off a rope, and they made a swing, and they swing on that, in that rope in a tree,
Oh, wow.
tied it to a tree,
Yeah.
and they swing all evening in the woods.
Wow. You've got a lot of stories to tell, don't you?
Yeah. I didn't even tell my whole life story.
Well, the more the better. Anything else you can think of?
Well, I got married
What
when I
about
was
spankings?
16 years old.
When you were what, 16 years old?
16. I married my brother-in-law.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I had a sister that married him first,
Yeah.
and she lived with him 3 months, and she got sick and passed away.
Oh, wow.
And he went to California and stayed a year. And when he come back, he started dating me. And we dated for a while. Nobody knew we was dating, because he'd come get me and take me to church. So that was our date. We always went to church.
Yeah. Where did y'all go to church? What denomination? What?
Assembly of God.
Assembly of God.
Yeah.
Is that who you were a member of, the Assembly of God?
Huh?
Is that who you were a member of? Is that a church that you were a member of?
I didn't understand.
Well, did you always go to Assembly of God?
What?
Did you always attend the Assembly of God church?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you a member?
I joined the Assembly of God church and
Yeah.
was baptized.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was about 14 then,
Yeah.
and then after I married your grandpa, I went to the Church of Christ. We both did, and we joined that church.
Yeah. So when your kids were little, how did you discipline them? Did you spank them, or what form of discipline did you use?
Well, we had a peach tree in the yard. We'd get a little peach tree limb and swat them with it.
So did they have to pick their own branches, or what?
Pick what?
Did they have to pick their own switches?
No. I punished Carol one time. She was wanting to follow me to work. I worked in a little restaurant for a Mr. Glass, and it was a barbecue place. I cooked ribs on the grill
Uh-huh.
and served ribs and coleslaw and potato salad and baked beans. And I worked for him for $200 a week.
$200 a week.
Yeah,
That was probably pretty good.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, he was a government man. He got, I guess, plenty of money. Anyway, he was paid well, so he paid me well.
Yeah.
And he had that business for a write-off on his taxes. So that was my first real job.
Oh, okay. So you were saying that Mom was wanting to follow you to work,
Yeah.
and what happened? You had to discipline her?
I spanked her, I think.
I think you and Paul and Pam were going to the mall. And y'all were going to the mall shopping, and I wanted to go with you.
Oh,
And you said no, and I had a fit and started following the car, chasing you.
yeah.
And you stopped and got out and picked up a big old tree branch and whipped me all the way back to the house.
Yeah, well, you remember it better than I do.
You're dang right I do.
Oh, gosh.
Well,
Well, we'll let you eat. Thank you for letting us interview you.
and my dinner's cold, I guess.
Well, I hope not.
No, it's not.